to Juice Plus's Ditch the Pitch live stream with Steve Gastro, July 8th, 2021. Tonight, Steve's guests are Tony Branner, Temi Ezero, and Andrea Bone, and they'll be talking about Plus Conversations, the fuel for your Juice Plus business. Here's Steve Gastro.
Hey, hello, everybody, and welcome to our premiere episode of Ditch the Pitch live stream. I'm Steve Gastro. Let's start out by thinking for a minute just how magical this human talent for language and conversation is. If you want to invite a friend of yours to have lunch with you next week, if you just vibrate the air with your vocal cords in a certain way, that friend is going to show up like magic at a certain restaurant next Tuesday at 11:45. Think about that. Wow. This talent we have for language and conversation is one of the most defining things that makes us human. We're really good at it. And we use conversation to create these personal relationships with other people, relationships where we can collaborate and depend on each other and help each other out. Conversation is what makes us human. It helps us form these personal relationships. So why so often, if we're so good at conversation, do we abandon our natural talent for conversation when we're trying to persuade people to do things? We want to sell something or persuade something. So we use a script or a presentation or a pitch. Don't use the script. Don't use the presentation. Don't monologue. Ditch the pitch. What we want to do is create a conversation that matters to another person. We don't want to present to them. This is what we're going to focus on in Ditch the Pitch. And tonight, I felt for this first time we're together on a Ditch the Pitch live stream, we should focus on this very fundamental talent we have for conversation and what it means. Now, if I had to sum up Ditch the Pitch in one sentence, and I want you all to remember this, it's this: you want to turn every presentation you have into a conversation that matters. I want to challenge you in something that I've challenged hundreds of Juice Plus partners. Don't ever make a presentation about Juice Plus again. You have made your last presentation about Juice Plus. From now on, forever, you want to have conversations about Juice Plus. Conversations that matter to that person you're trying to recruit to be on your team, or to recruit to be a customer, or maybe with an existing customer or team member. You want to create a conversation that matters. We call these conversations that matter plus conversations. Think about this. A plus conversation is a conversation that matters to the other person. When you're speaking with a customer or team member, what we want is they're saying, I am so glad I'm in this conversation. This is important to me. This matters to me. Because think about what happens when you have conversations that matter with people, plus conversations. Those conversations that matter, they are the building blocks of trusting and collaborative relationships. And when people believe they're in a relationship with you and they see you as a trusted partner, that's when they're going to commit to you and to Juice Plus. And that's what leads to your success. So as I mentioned, we chose this topic, conversations, and how important it is to our businesses and our lives is the topic we're going to focus on tonight. Now, before I bring in my guests, just a couple of things. As you all know, we opened up this first Ditch the Pitch live stream to all Juice Plus partners. And from now on, our every other week Ditch the Pitch live streams will be available to people who are enrolled in Ditch the Pitch. It's easy to do. It's a couple of clicks away from your myjuiceplus.com login page. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's introduce my guests. First, I'd like to bring in Tony Branner. Tony, can you join us?
Hey, Steve,
Hey,
how are you?
Nice to see you. How you doing?
I'm great.
Great. What's one thing, Tony, that people in the Juice Plus community know you for?
Oh gosh, I'm known as the crazy plant lady.
The crazy plant lady?
Yes.
Well, I know you were also a cheerleader for Michael Jordan in college, weren't you?
Yes, that was a fun time.
That was a great time. Good. Let's bring in Temi Ezero. Hey, Tami, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Like Tony, I think you're down in North Carolina, right?
I am outside Charlotte.
What's something people in the Juice Plus community know you for, Tami?
I don't know if anybody knows me for anything, but somebody asked me about a fun fact. And actually, I got to hold the Olympic torch back in the 1996 Olympic Games.
That's pretty awesome.
Awesome.
That's great. That must have been quite an honor. And Andrea Bond. Andrea, can you join us? Hey, Andrea.
How are you?
And you're in San Antonio, Texas tonight, right?
Yes.
What's a fun fact about you, Andrea, for everybody to know?
Probably, I guess last month I hiked the Grand Canyon from rim to rim.
That is amazing. That is
And
amazing.
I'm not a camper, so I
You
actually
also,
slept in a tent.
I also knew you run about the equivalent of a marathon a week. So you are,
Well, yeah, I like to run too.
that's really great. Well, listen, the four of us are going to talk about conversation here, as I mentioned. And these folks have a lot of experience building their Juice Plus business through conversations. Let's talk about it. Any of you share an example of a great conversation you've had recently. Let's talk about why it's great. Andrew, you want to start us off?
Yeah, interestingly, that it's funny that you asked that because I had probably one of my favorite conversations this morning, ironically.
Really? That's great.
Yeah, I did an event a couple weeks ago at a retirement community.
Yeah.
And had great conversation with about half a dozen women. And one of them was a little hesitant. And so long story short, she asked me to come back today. And I just sat down with this lady one-on-one, no plan. I thought she was going to order, everything. It went a different direction. She expressed a different need. And what was so incredible about it for me, I guess, was when I left, she gave me the biggest hug and she said, "You are precious. Thank you for understanding my situation. I'm excited to know you more." So it was really sweet. It touched my heart.
And it set the stage maybe for the next time you're going to be with her to advance the relationship further. That's great. It must have been meaningful. Must have felt good.
It did.
Tammy, what about you? What's a great conversation you've had recently?
Actually, we just did an event in my home last week, and I really love events for this very reason. I had people come together that hadn't been, and it was really not a Juice Plus event. It was, but it wasn't. We actually got together to learn how to make something, make a gluten-free food. And so the conversations were just very natural and flowing, and I was able to walk them through some things. But what happened was one of the ladies that was joining us for the first time had asked all these wonderful questions. I had asked her all kinds of wonderful questions as we got our hands in the dough. And what happened was I was able to hear that need. And then later on, she asked me privately, "How do I fix this?" And I was able to have that conversation and get her started on Juice Plus.
It sounds like in both of these examples, you had a human moment, you bonded with somebody, and then they're more open to like asking you for help later, maybe the next conversation Andrea has. What about you, Tony? What's a great conversation you've had recently?
Oh my goodness. I love all these conversations and meeting different people. That makes this so much fun. But a couple years ago, I keep thinking about this one because one of my team members introduced me to a woman and I started asking her questions and tell me about yourself. And almost everything I asked her, it always came down to something about the ice skating rink. She told me her child is at the ice skating rink all the time and she coaches and her best friends are other parents at the ice skating rink. And that no matter what question I asked her, that seemed to be a big passion of hers. And I didn't really have to say a lot about what we do or our mission or anything. At the end, I just said, I bet we could do some workshops at the ice skating rink and really educate, on whole food nutrition and plants and fruits and vegetables. And that was all it took. She was like, "Oh, really? You would come? You would help me?" And we fast tracked her through all 3 promotions at the ice skating rink.
What's so amazing is that when you have a conversation as opposed to a presentation, you find out what matters to people. They're handing you gifts. That woman gave you a gift. She said, "The ice skating rink matters to me." And because you were paying attention to open to that, you were able to create a way to move forward. Tammy, while you had your hands in the dough, you were able to understand and notice things that were important to this person. People are handing you gifts all the time if you're open to them in conversation, aren't they?
Yes,
if you listen.
absolutely.
I had a funny experience on an airplane one time. This is an extreme example, but I just said hello to the woman next to me and, said, "Where do you live? What do you do?" And she talked for 3 hours. And really all I said was, "Oh, wow. Okay." And when we landed at the very end, she said, "What do you do?" And I told her my very brief 1-minute version of what I do. And she said, "I need that. Let me get my credit card out right now." So that was my most extreme because I do like to talk. And that was the most extreme example of really just listening and something amazing happened at the end.
I mean, 3 hours is extreme, right? Yeah. Good for you for paying attention. But what it shows is that when we listen to people and when we honor their interest in sharing what matters to them, They love talking to us. And isn't that important? Well, let's talk about this. So if people are having conversations where they're really engaged and they're interested in talking to us, let's focus. How does this build a Juice Plus business when you're having conversations that matter? Let's talk about specifically, how can this build your business?
I'll jump in here, Steve. Honestly, I just think you need to be yourself. Just really sit back and be yourself. You can't say the right thing to the wrong person or the wrong thing to the right person. So I think when you're trying to build your business, our business is built on relationships. So you're really just learning about that other person, right? So you can find a need and fill a need. But this program basically encourages us to listen to people. I mean, I think that's the premise of this whole program, is to listen to people, right? To make 95% of that conversation about them. I think that's kind of the bottom line, is we like to talk. I know I like to talk.
Well, let me play on what Tammy just said there. We make it about other people. I mean, let's think about it. As much as a customer or a team member, whether they're a current customer team member or a future customer team member, as much as they like you and as much as they're interested in you, let's face it, they're kind of interested more in themselves. Human nature, let's not fight it. So one of our principles in Ditch the Pitch, and I'll tell you what this visual is in a moment, I'll share it with you, is something Tammy just mentioned. One of our practices in Ditch the Pitch is we make 95% of the conversation about the other person. Why? Because they're familiar with their own story. They care about their own story. So one of the ways to create a conversation that matters is to make sure you're talking about the other person. Let me just say one word on this visual for those of you who don't know it. This is when you're in Ditch the Pitch, you get this Ditch the Pitch pocket guide. You're looking at a digital version here. This is a physical version that Juice Plus Promotions has, but it's a quick outline of what you'll learn about the Ditch the Pitch habits and practices, and we'll share some more of those tonight. Great, so that's one of the ways you can build your business, is having a conversation about somebody else. What happens when you do that? When you have the conversation that's really about them, how does that lead to more business?
Well, can I add something, Steve, just to that last
Please.
thought?
Yeah.
I am definitely an introvert. And I remember I struggled when I was first building my business, thinking, you know, I have to have the right words, I have to have the perfect presentation. And when I went through this course and really understood the concept of a quality conversation, it was so freeing for me because I realized this is okay. I can sit back and take in the information and that feels so much more comfortable for me. So I just had to throw that out there. If there's any introverts listening, this is so freeing and fun.
I want to play on that and ask Tony and Tammy if they saw that too, because there's a few things I've heard consistently from Juice Plus partners who've been through Ditch the Pitch. And prior to our launch last week, about 600 Juice Plus partners had gone through as part of the whole test period. And the most common thing I hear was, oh, I didn't realize I was talking so much, right? We'll come to that. But the other thing I hear all the time is, oh my God, there's less pressure. I now don't have to plan what I'm going to say. I can just be natural in a conversation. Tammy and Tony, have you seen that sort of freeing up when you just look at this as having conversations as opposed to putting the pressure on yourself to present something?
Absolutely. I always say to myself right before a call, let go of the outcome. So that's the first thing that helps you relax, is let go of the outcome, really turn on your ears, get rid of all your distractions and look for clues, and listen for clues. And sometimes you can get clues from the background of people. One day I heard a child, and I said, oh, is that your child? And she said, yeah, my child is disabled, and that gave me a really, really big clue. Maybe you're sensing they're looking for community. Maybe the money, is something that would really help them. Maybe personal health or the health of their extended family. So I'm using my people instincts the entire time to really try to, just think what's in it for them, because I can't tell them everything, right? I'm going to have to choose a couple things to share, when it's my turn to talk.
What's in it for them? I want to return to a few of the things you said in a few minutes. They're very powerful. It's good. Tammy, do you want to add to that?
It's funny. I was thinking the same things, Tony. I mean, they're handing us all these clues. It's like they're leaving a trail of popcorn or puzzle pieces.
Mm-hmm.
It's really kind of up to us to grab all of those and put it together, because we're walking into the middle of their story. We really don't know what happened to them before they met with us, whether it's on the phone or in person. So we have to have our ears turned on, and we have to be listening for all those little things and those gifts that Steve mentioned that they're giving to us. Honestly, they really want to know that they're being heard. And when we acknowledge what they're saying, I think they feel that connection and their guard starts to drop, and they're more willing and more open to have a conversation with us, a conversation that matters.
That's great. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. That's what happens is when you let people talk and you honor their interests, they will give you those clues. You know, we don't have to be thinking about, oh my God, what do I want to say next? Because if we're open to what's happening in the conversation, the customer or team member will hand us these clues that say, this is what matters to me. And from that, you can build a conversation that's meaningful to them.
Well, and I was going to say that, Steve, I was just thinking that how many times in the past, before I really understood the concept, that I would be going, okay, now how do I fit complete into this conversation? Or how do I weave this in? And I just realized that, you know, when you're doing that, you're not hearing. You can't hear and be kind of calculating ahead, if you will. So that's the fun of this, is it really becomes about spontaneous conversations.
Let me speak to something that Andrea mentioned and Tony mentioned a moment ago. When Tony said you have to let go of the outcome. And of course, we want to close sales and get team members. It's not that we're giving up on that. It's that it's a great life lesson that sometimes when we're too focused on what might happen, we miss the experience of being in the moment. And one of the practices we have in Ditch the Pitch, it's here in the bottom left, it's called turn down your analytic brain. And it's what Andrea and Tony both just mentioned is don't start getting caught in your own head, doing calculations and equations and thinking what might happen. Sure, you're planning, but make sure you are totally focused on that person. Look at this other practice. You're being totally alert so that you will notice the clues they're giving you that can help you build a relationship with them and create a conversation that matters to them.
Steve, I had a situation where one of my team members set up a three-way call, and right from the beginning, the woman started sharing her story, and it was a really truly tragic story of something that had just happened to her, and she lost her job, she had to move, she was depressed, she couldn't eat, and by after listening to her and nodding a lot, I just decided this was not the right time to share our mission with her, and ask her some more questions and just gave her some encouragement, and then said, you know what, let's talk again in a month. Like, you really, you need to rest. And so I sent her a nice card and a little goodie bag with a bunch of samples and smoothies, because one of the things she said was, I can't eat, I'm so stressed. And a month, maybe a little longer than that, she reached out to the person who invited her and said, I think I'm ready now. I want to do something different. I see your community is so caring and loving, and I'm ready to learn. So,
what's so interesting about that is I've heard stories of the time a Juice Plus partner meets somebody and they immediately buy a Tower Garden or immediately buy product or immediately join the team. But let's face it, that's a rarity.
Right.
Most of the time. And if you think of even your longest lasting and most loyal customers and team members, that was a series of relationship building conversations that led to that. So it's okay to say it's not going to happen today. Like Andrea, your story this morning, that person is going to be more likely to commit to you next time. Relationship building is a process, not a single event. And what Tony mentioned, I'm going to take a question from the audience here. What Tony mentioned reminds me of something, and thank you, Sarah Salinas, for this question. Sarah asked, sometimes people share their story and they have a difficult situation. How do you share Juice Plus without having them feel that you want to take advantage of their situation and try to sell them something? Because if people feel that, then maybe that wasn't their intention for sharing it. So what do we do when we're talking to somebody in a conversation? And the good news is they're willing to share with us because they trust us, but they're having a tough situation. How do you navigate that?
Can I jump in for a second here,
Please,
Steve?
Please, Tammy.
I actually have a series of phrases that I like to go to. I mean, I guess it's not improv, but these are some of my sort of go-to phrases, like, tell me more about that.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of go and get a series of, to get that conversation going back and forth where they share something, and then I'll say, tell me a little bit more about that. Or just saying, I hear you, just acknowledging that other person. Or are you open? And then that can go in a number of different ways. And then just to be able to get that conversation to go even further is, what was that like? Whether it's a pain point or a pleasure, you know what I mean? Doesn't matter, but just showing them that you care. really, I think is quite helpful.
And using those conversational nuggets, that's not pitching, right? You're still improvising, Tammy. To be able to say, tell me more about that is just a great tool to get somebody to open up. As long as you have a phrase like that that's not too long, it's okay to use those in the right, they're tools to help advance a conversation, to get somebody deeper.
My team knows this doesn't mean timeout. This means transparency. And so when you're feeling nervous like that and you're feeling like you're going to feel like a salesperson, but you really feel in your heart that what we have could help the person, just say that. Say, I'm really nervous to tell you about this because I'm sure, you know, you've been dealing with cancer and I'm sure everyone has their advice they want to give you. And I'm sure that's just overwhelming. But would it be okay if I shared some of our solutions with you? And then usually they say, yes, you know, I would love that.
That's kind of what I like to do in that situation is, I mean, first of all, I think they want to be heard and you need to acknowledge the challenges that they're facing. But I really feel in my heart, I've had that tugging many times. And again, I don't want to keep going over this, but being an introvert, it's like, oh, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say anything, but I know it wouldn't be right if I didn't. So I say, I believe in being very true to yourself there and just saying, listen, I feel like, you know, this might not be the right time to bring this up or really uncomfortable, but I also know I would feel worse if I didn't tell you. And then I try and give them an out, more like, you know, if this isn't a good time to have this conversation, we can talk again later, you know, and meet them where they are in that moment.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Now, one of the principles that came up a moment ago was this idea of improvisation. And I based Ditch the Pitch, and those of you who have read the book, and I'll talk in a minute about how you can get that if you don't have it, those of you who read the book know that it's based on a lot of improvisation principles. And one of the things I teach in the book is that you can all improvise, right? You may not be Steve Carell or Amy Poehler, but you don't need to be because you're a natural human improviser. And we should all use Ditch the Pitch to give us the confidence to just know what we're going to say. I want to share for a moment here a definition of improv that I found from an improv expert when I wrote the book. He said, improvisation is the art of not knowing what you're going to do or say next, but being completely okay with that. And one of the other things I've heard from so many people who've gone through Ditch the Pitch is they feel the confidence to just, I'm going to know what to say. Why? Because I'm listening to my customer or team member. I'm paying attention. I'm showing that I care for them. And it'll be natural to improvise. And let's face it, when you go out with your friends on Saturday night, do you write a script ahead of time?
You know, one of the other phrases that I like to use when you're in that situation, just like Tony and Andrea were talking about, was, you know, I don't know if this is for you. This is what we've done, and this is what we've experienced. And if you're open to checking that out, I'd be happy to help you in any way I can. Because I think they hear your heart when you talk like that.
And you're paying attention, you will know when it's appropriate to say the right thing. I think everybody in the call has probably had that terrible experience where you moved a little too quickly and you tripped the wire and the person got defensive. It's going to happen. But if you're paying attention, you will know when it's appropriate to share Juice Plus with them because you're making it about them.
I also say sometimes things like, if you decide to work with us, this is what it would be, you know, this is what would happen, or you're so fun. If you decide to work with us, I know we'll have such a great time. So you're letting them off the hook, which is a way of letting everybody relax, you know, that there's no pressure. If you decide, you know, our solutions are for you, great. We'll just link arms with you and, you know, help you in any way we can. But that they see right away that there's not going to be assertiveness. There's not going to be pressure. It's going to be up to them.
We have a questions related to this from Amy Sneed. Thank you, Amy. Do you ever feel like you build all these beautiful relationships, but you don't find a way to insert Juice Plus in as the solution? I enjoy relationships, but sometimes I get lost in it and sometimes don't move the conversation to Juice Plus. It's related to some of the things we've said. It's like, well, let me ask you before I offer an idea. How do you find a way to insert Juice Plus in the conversation at the appropriate time?
I have a great way. We are actually big on events, and not Juice Plus events, but social events. And when you get people together in a social environment, and especially if you've got a group of people who are like-minded, the conversation always comes back around, always, because people want to share. They want to share what's going in their lives. They're either going to share something that's they're struggling with. And somebody will be in that room that's going to say, gosh, I don't know, maybe this could help you. And it comes back around. It doesn't always have to come from us. It can come from somebody else that's in the room. So the social events are huge, absolutely huge. Just getting people together, like-minded people together, and inviting others to join you. The community is priceless.
Great. Andrea, you look like you're about to say something there.
Well, no, I was thinking that is so true. When you were in those social events, I've done a lot of salad and jar events for many years, and I got so many customers and team members from them, and I never brought it up. Like, I did no Juice Plus presentation. They maybe saw the bottles on the counter, or somebody else. I remember one time a customer who was attending was like, oh my gosh, my husband's blood pressure. And then everybody's asking, well, what are you talking about? But I think on, like, when we look at social media, I just think it's kind of just putting it out there, not in terms of like, I don't like to use it as an advertising medium, but making our lifestyle shine through. And I think people will just pick up on those clues. And then I do believe that if you listen to them long enough, they're going to eventually turn that conversation back around to you and say, oh my gosh, I've been monopolizing the conversation. Tell me what you do. It's just being patient enough for that.
Those of you who are at Juice Plus Live may remember in the session I did, I talked about the metaphor of being like a locksmith. A locksmith studies a lock and makes a key to fit that lock. And if you get to know this person well enough, you'll be able to find a way to make the key that will open the door to Juice Plus for them. Base it on them. Don't try to force Juice Plus in there. Look for the way that they're going to welcome Juice Plus into the conversation, if it's appropriate for them.
I think on three-way calls, sometimes, my team members are like, this is our one chance. I finally got them to get on a phone call with you or on a Zoom or a private meeting, and there's pressure on us as leaders, to make something happen. But I always end each meeting with an action step. So if it doesn't get around to an actual decision of joining our team or actually, ordering Juice Plus, then I end it with an action step. It might be another meeting. It might be some extra material that they have asked for. Maybe they want to look at the research. Maybe they want their child to try the samples, So I think that takes some of the pressure off if you just tie it up in a little bow at the end, and you don't just end it without having said everything that you hope to say.
Yeah, and you've got a next step identified.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, Tony. I like how you have the next step. I know that when I get on a three-way call with somebody, I kind of paraphrase in the beginning and say, we're just going to make this call, but we're going to leave them in a better place than we found them. And so I like that action step at the end.
It's interesting. We did a webinar, Kurt Beavers and I did back in May. We call it the Conversation Pipeline. And what we got to think about is we don't build our business, like we said, one conversation and we're done. It's one conversation at a time, over time, to build a relationship. And think about if you just had a handful more plus conversations that matter to people every day, what's going to happen? Those conversations are going to be building relationships. And a few months from now, you've got all this momentum. Think about creating a whole series of conversations with multiple people. Some of them, it might not go anywhere, but that's okay. Maybe they shouldn't be your customer team member. Not everybody's going to be, but if you have enough conversations that matter, it will turn into good business for you over time.
I have to add there that, and I hope I give credit where credit is due. I believe it was Michael Heck in our corporate office. He used to be our regional director in Texas. And he said, think about it, Andrea. There's no challenge in our business that more conversations can't fix. And I think when we're having conversations that matter, we have a lot of them because we're meeting people where they are. And when they're feeling forced, we probably need to reflect and say, is it because we're afraid to go have other conversations? In essence, we aren't having enough conversations. We're trying to force an agenda in a select few rather than just, I always say, I feel like my life is so rich in relationships through this business. So it's just about building relationships.
Right. Have conversations, build relationships, and enough of those people will commit to you. That's it. Juice Plus is a relationship-oriented business. It's not just a cliche, it is. And we build our relationships one conversation at a time.
You know what happens, Andrew, when you do that is that it turns the table. Instead of us going after potential customers and team members, they come to us. And I love that because it's not pressured at all. There's no sales involved.
And it's in their own timing or God's timing or whatever you want to think of it is, you can't force that. And I have team members who come on board, but they're just not really ready to have goals. And then something changes. And I have people I've talked to 3 years ago and something changes and I've stayed gently in touch with them, sent them a recipe here or there, invited them to an event, and they know how to find me when that timing becomes correct for them. And we've already had the relationship building in place. So now magic can happen.
You create gravity that people come to you, right? Go on, Andrea.
No, I was going to say I have to share an example just because I think of this. I have this customer, Tina, dear, dear friend, just love her to death, love being with her, would love for her to work with us, but it's not she's just not interested, right? So I've just loved on her as a customer for several years now. And I just heard from her over the weekend and she's like, Andrea, I'm with my hairdresser and I'm telling her, we're talking nutrition and I'm telling her about Juice Plus and she wants all the products and she wants to share it out of her salon. And I thought, I just met Tina where she was and she was saying, I'm singing your praises. And I thought if I had pushed Tina, I could have put a barrier in that relationship. But instead, I think, like you said, when you meet people where they are, you're just blessed so abundantly.
No doubt. You plant enough seeds, some of them are going to germinate at different times. Just don't worry, but don't put your pressure on yourself to get this one to happen right now.
And they trust you.
They will trust you. You will build trust, then people want to commit to you. Think about it. Your job is to get people to commit to you in Juice Plus. How do you do that? Building relationships, one conversation at a time. So let's keep talking. Let's take another question here. I heard there's a great question here that comes up a lot. How would you transition? Thank you, Priscilla Rose, for this. How do you transition from a text when you're in a digital conversation to a conversation like on the phone? Let's talk about the role, because let's face it, people are texting and emailing a lot. What do you do in that situation?
I'll just throw in here. I don't know necessarily phone for me, but in person, and I guess long distance would be, but I love to meet with people. I joke that I built my business over the years by having coffee meetings and going to lunch. So if I'm in that text conversation, I'll just say, hey, I would love just to get to sit down and chat with you in person. It would be so good to get to see your face. Could we get together? Or I like to use Zoom if there's a long distance where, can we get face to face? It'd just be so much fun to have a live conversation. And they usually, we find a time that very open to that.
The purpose of the text isn't to close the sale, it's to earn the right for the personal conversation. We can't forget that. I know we're busy. And sometimes it's hard to spend time on the phone with people. But if you invest in the right conversations with the right people, you will be able to build your business that way. Tammy, you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to say, I kind of think of it as a pyramid where texting is the beginning, but your ultimate goal is to be face to face. So you're wanting to go all the way up. And so you learn so much more. And Tony mentioned the clues earlier. When you're face to face with somebody, whether it's on Zoom or in person, you can see facial expressions. You can see what's going on around them. You can see whether or not they're comfortable or uncomfortable. And there's so many other things that you get from that conversation that you'd never see if you're just texting them.
What Tammy referred to, we call in Ditch the Pitch, the conversation hierarchy. How do you use the text message to get the phone conversation, to get the Zoom, to get the lunch in person? I know I've gotten a lot of questions from people on the program. I want to take like 2 minutes, just give you a quick view of what Ditch the Pitch is all about. And so once you're logged into the Juice Plus Hub, which I mentioned is a couple of clicks away from your myjuiceplus.com login. Once you're enrolled, you'll see this after you click this Ditch the Pitch tile on the left. You'll see these 4 courses. And the one on the left is the main Ditch the Pitch course. When we open that one up, this is where you're going to see lots of videos about all the Ditch the Pitch habits and practices. And I think Kim will just show us a screenshot of one of the videos here. That's a great facial expression for me. You caught me mid. And also in that, we've got all sorts of downloadable learning materials here. This is for our first habit number 1 of 6, where there's a 4-page downloadable for each of the 6 habits, which gives you lots of ideas. And if you can go down to the next page, Kim, you'll see for each of our practices, we've got to give it a try. We're going to give you real concrete tools to practice. You'll also see when you saw that list of 4 courses, there's a resources tab at the top. You can get access to that pocket guide I showed you, a list of our upcoming live streams, etc. and a way to learn how to navigate Ditch the Pitch. Let's go back to those 4 courses. There's also one called Hear the Experts Speak, which is a number of Juice Plus leaders talking with me in a panel discussion format. And these are fascinating. I got some, you can see the names of some of the leaders there talking about these 6 habits. It's really wonderful. Each of those is about 10 or 15 minutes long. And also there are 2 other courses. One, the upcoming Ditch the Pitch live streams like we're on now, and you can see the list of the next number of weeks, what the topics are. And it also says past Ditch the Pitch live streams, which like tonight's will be on this. So you'll be able to see things on demand whenever you want. If we can go to the resources tab, one other thing is that to purchase, if you want to get a hold of some of these materials, if we can go to Juice Plus Promotions for a minute. And if you've all bought water bottles and t-shirts from Juice Plus Promotions, there's now a Ditch the Pitch tab there where you can buy the book and the pocket guide. Ditch the Pitch is in a paperback. It's also an audiobook, which I don't know I get emails from Juice Plus partners saying, I was out running today, listen to the audiobook. We've also got the pocket guide I showed you in a physical format. And there's this little wallet card to help you remember the practices and habits. The point is, there are tons of tools to help you do this. You want to have great conversations? You've got all the tools in front of you right now. If you have any questions on that, on how to enroll, if you go to the Juice Plus Ditch the Pitch Facebook group, which hopefully you're all members of, and Kim will put the link in the chat in a moment, you can see steps on how to enroll, etc. So any questions, you can let us know or go to support@juiceplus.com on the call center, or call the call center and they can help you out. Okay, so let's keep talking. Conversations that matter, how they build your business. What are some of the tips that you 3 who have experience in building your business one conversation at a time? What tips would you give Juice Plus partners and how they can start using the principles we're talking about to move their business forward?
Relax and be yourself.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth? You know, when you get a salesperson pitching at you, like you go to buy a car or something, or you're buying clothes, they're not being a human being, are they? You know that's not how they act with their friends, right? It's not human.
I have a journal that I keep of how many 3-way meetings or calls my team members do. And the ones who do the most are growing their business the fastest. And so the courage to trust your leaders, to role model these conversations with you, for you, when you're new, I think is one of the biggest. If you talk to every leader in our company, that probably is going to come to the forefront, that when you're new, you don't have to be really good at this. You just have to have the courage to invite and to trust your leaders to have that conversation alongside of you. And we're going to trust and protect your relationship with your person. We are never going to damage that. We're going to be so careful, this fragile relationship, and we're not going to, push too hard or anything like that. So that would be my biggest advice, is just become brave and see how many conversations you can have.
That's great. Have as many conversations as you have. Don't put pressure on yourself to have each conversation go well. They won't. It's okay. And to Tony's point, in September, we're going to do a Ditch the Pitch live stream on 3-way connection calls and how to use these Ditch the Pitch principles on those calls, because it's such an important part of building the business, isn't it? Great.
Secret sauce.
What's that?
It's the secret sauce.
It is the secret sauce. Andrea, what are some of the tips that you'd give people?
I think probably what makes me feel most comfortable in conversations is just being authentic. I mean, to the point where I can't remember if Tammy or Tony addressed it earlier, but if I'm feeling nervous, I'll let people know that. Like if I'm feeling like I'm bothering somebody and following up, I'll say, I feel like I'm bothering you. I think it also keeping in mind that duplication is so important for long-term success in our business. Then, those people who can become team members or might be team members in that conversation that we're having, it gives them permission to be real. And again, I'm all about taking the pressure off. I'm that type A that has put too much pressure on myself in the past. And that's why I find this all so refreshing, because I think it's just being real and being in the moment.
I said in my opening tonight, I talked about how conversation is one of the things that makes us human. It helps us do the other thing that makes us human is our social ability and the way we interact with people. So what you're saying makes so much sense. When we're being natural, we're being human, And that's how humans have evolved for millions of years to get where we are now, by being real social beings who interact with each other. Don't fake it, right? Just be real, be yourself, and have the kind of conversations. We all learned to talk when we were about 2. We're good at this, right? We've been perfecting it ever since. Let's use our natural talent to be real human beings interacting with other real human beings. They will then trust us and we'll build our business.
You know what I thought was kind of fun after I did this, Steve, was every time I'd have a conversation, I'd pull out the pocket guide and I would read through it and I'd say, all right, did I do this? Or did I miss the boat on that? It gave me some good clarity and insight as to where I was excelling and where I needed to maybe focus a little bit more, or pull back, or shut up, or, you know what I mean? It's like, it really helped me hone in on this very natural way of talking to people, because I think before, and this actually is a very good fit for me. It's been so comfortable for me to just sort of slide into this, but it is not for everybody. Some people need more of a script. And when you do that, and then you take a look at these 6 different principles, it just makes it so obvious. And I think it's for anybody. It's, you know, the person that's afraid to talk to the person who talks too much. We could catch ourselves in anywhere in all of this.
What Tammy said there's really important is that Ditch the Pitch has 6 habits, and each habit has 3 practices. So that's 24 elements, but you don't need to learn them all at once. You can, like Tammy said, she would do a conversation, then look at the pocket guide that has them all in there and say, I can work on that one better. And what you'll find is over a few months, if you focus on the different habits and practices one at a time, it'll come together and be a system that'll be very natural for you.
I love that we have this now, because I think, you know, all of us have had people join our teams that just already naturally know how to have conversations, and they rise in their business very quickly. We call them unicorns in our team. Like, don't mess them up, just let them go. You know, don't coach them. But this has given us a system for teaching everybody. And like Andrea said, we need to be able to duplicate what we're doing. And you can't just wait around for the people who naturally know how to have these conversations. We can now be systematic and teach people. And I just really am grateful to you for creating this and sharing it with the Juice Plus company.
What's so interesting, it's that we need duplication in a business like this. And at the same time, every conversation needs to be unique. What Ditch the Pitch is a duplicable framework that enables Juice Plus partners to have unique conversations.
Right.
Because it's a system that helps you, just like a basketball team has a game plan that allows them to improvise on the court based on what's happening on the court.
You have to have a solid foundation, and that's what this does. It gives us something to fall back on.
Wonderful. Andrea, do you have a closing thought for us?
You know, I was talking a couple days ago with one of my team members, had this amazing young lady, Jessica, who's a Mexico team member, ironically. And we like to do team acknowledgement at the end of each month. And so she had added 15 team members, yes, 15 in June. And so I asked her to share with our team at the beginning of our team call, you know, what did you do, Jessica? And it just, oh my gosh, it was so precious. She said, I just asked them what matters to them and what they would like. I just wanted to find out what they cared about. And then I showed them the potential Juice Plus could add to make those things happen. And I realized that's exactly what this is. This is Plus. She was having Plus conversations. So if anybody doubts if they work, a side note, I talked to her, checked in with her yesterday, and she already has 3 team members in July already.
I'd love to talk to her and hear her story. We'll get her on a Ditch the Pitch live stream someday.
There you go.
Wonderful. Tammy and Tony, any closing thoughts for us?
Build a community. Just make those connections. Make or create something that people want to be a part of, and they want to be part of you. Learn about the other person and give them a reason to connect with you again and again.
Excellent. Again and again until as the relationship builds. Tony?
Just remember that you're not going to have a chance to tell them everything in the first meeting. And so I think of people standing on the threshold of our door that's going to welcome them into our community, into our Juice Plus world. And I'm thinking, which door is this? Maybe they give us clues they're going to be wildly crazy about the Tower Garden, and that's going to be what pulls them in initially. Or maybe it's the mission, or maybe it's the community, or maybe it's the science. For me, it was the science. I'm a biology nerd, and oxidative stress and free radical damage and all of that. So if you listen for all of those clues, you're going to be able to reach out that door and grab their hand and pull them in a place where they feel really comfortable starting, and really matches up to their passion.
That's wonderful. There's so many beautiful things in what you folks have said, and I really appreciate your time tonight. And everybody who's been watching or watches on the recording, thank you so much. We couldn't get to all the questions, of course. So what I encourage people to do is, if you've got a question you want to ask, post it on the Ditch the Pitch Facebook group, Juice Plus Ditch the Pitch Facebook group. And I and other people will do our best to answer those questions. And I encourage you all to take advantage of this thing we're doing. It's so much fun. It gives me so much joy to bring Ditch the Pitch into the Juice Plus community, and to see Juice Plus partners not only benefiting themselves, but because they build their business, they're actually helping more people with their health and to reach their financial aspirations. And isn't that what we're all here to do? So I look forward to talking to all of you at some point in the future. I hope I get to. Hope you'll take the course and see us on more Ditch the Pitch live streams. And Tony, Tammy, and Andrea, can't thank you enough for your participation. And I'm sure everybody out there thanks you for your wisdom tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Take care.